And now, from Grid Square Echo Mike 48, this is 100 Watts and a Wire.
Well, hello and welcome to 100 Watts and a Wire. My name is Christian. My call sign is Kilo Zero Sierra Tango Hotel. 100 Watts and a Wire features the intersection of life and amateur radio. Whether you're new to ham radio or an experienced op looking for your people, 100 Watts and a Wire is dedicated to providing quality information, entertainment, and community. And joined from the West, starting out west here, Steve, W7UDI. What's going on with you, brother?
Oh, just another fun-filled day here in paradise. It's been on the cool side, 29 degrees outside right now, so...
A hint of sarcasm cool. There. Just living the life is another one. Just living the life, man. And that's sarcasm for something's going on. And now you gave us
it
that.
Is but cold. That's right what it is.
All right. Finally, the truth. Let's look at our temperatures for our friends who have gathered. Now, podcast listening audience, we invite you all to join us 6 o'clock Central Time on Sundays. And same with our... new friends on TikTok who are starting to gather and communicate and engage with me there as well. Everybody's welcome. Thank you. Welcome. Introduce yourself here in the chat, but you're all welcome on Sundays. We'd love to hear from you. If you have a question, put a Q in front of it. Steve and I will try to get to it tonight. Scotty is also here. We'll talk to him, but I was just getting ready to say, it's not the coldest day we've seen. I can't throw my, look at this temperature at you now, because today got warmer. But if you want to share your temperatures in the chat, go ahead and do it. We're at 34 degrees right now as we get into the evening, which is really nothing. Steve, what do you have?
29 right now.
29.
It's working its way down. So we'll probably be in the teens tonight or tomorrow morning.
All right. Mother Nature working its way down. Good answer. Scotty's here, KC3BXN. What's going on in the Maryland area with you, sir?
It's chilly. It's cold.
Is it now?
I got you guys beat at 27 degrees in Ellicott City, Maryland at the moment.
Damn. Ooh, 27. Woo! We'll take it.
Frosty.
Scotty wins. Let us know what you're dealing with where you are in the live chat tonight. We'll also we have a Zoom link that we can drop down. We'll take some calls tonight. If things fit in, we're going to try to do that for you. The link is in the description here on YouTube. It's also going to be in the chat. It's in our Discord. It's around. I believe I posted it as well on Facebook. So everybody's welcome at all the places. And we may take some calls with you.
Did you put it on TikTok?
I did not. I don't know how you put a linky on the TikTok. I'd have to read it. It would be like http://us02.web.zoom.us/j/88530. And then it's like, damn, I hope you got it.
And then 60 seconds is up.
And it's up, just like that. But I am having a blast.
Time is up.
I've been talking to guys, man. I really enjoy the 60 seconds. Maybe it's the radio guy in me. What I do is every morning I get up and I'm usually taking my kids. We're shuttling the kids around. One day I'll take my oldest, another time I'll take my youngest. But either way, they go in two different directions and it takes a full team and, a whole thing. And so while I'm waiting, I rise early, but I get up and I go outside and I do the walk. And if the sun's starting to come up, cool. But it's been really frigid. The last few ones that I've done have, 19 degrees, that kind of stuff, and I'm shuffling, boy. You hear them, so I got to go back down, and that kind of. But yeah, I'm having a blast because it's just a quick little bit, and it's almost like a thought on a walk. Sometimes you talk to people while you're walking. I love a walk and talk where I blow it out a little bit. We just go and air it out. But these are real specific because something will pop in my mind. I'm like, let me just go ahead and record this and I'll put it up on the Tickety Talk. And I'm finding that there's a lot of hams that are there. And I suppose they're looking for, some solid advice. They're looking for, I guess I'm trying to say there's some people that are like us that just want to have some community of people to hang out with. And we can do it in this virtual way that we do and we gather because we all can't be together. And boy, that kind of leads into a club discussion there a little bit. But anyway, welcome to everybody. And if you're new, drop new. Say you're new in the chat. We'd love to meet you there. Everybody's going to be friendly and welcoming. But if we could just get old boy on the tickety talk, and I don't know how many of the people. That's funny because it feels kind of like its own thing. Like it was a big deal when Steve got on Discord. And it was like, he never did. Like, I've known this MFer for a long time. He ain't touching no Facebook. I'm like, Steve, we got 8,000 people. We got 10,000 people. We got 12,000 people. 15,000. And nothing would move him, right? And he's just get the wagging finger like, no, sir. Discord comes around and he's like, yeah, like this is kind of cool. I'm into that. And I know a lot of people aren't into TikTok. Some people aren't even into the Google. And I'm like, okay, whatever you're into, I want to meet you there. So this is the long form version of our podcast, TikTok, Discord, place to gather throughout the week. Anywho, just having it's so quick and I would say disposable. I get a lot of the beautiful women come up on mine, and I'm swipe away before I become a sinner. And next thing you know, it's like Pastor Joe shows up, and he's like, "Hello, Christian. Why? This is a Pastor Joe minute." Like, oh damn!
Swipe right, swipe right,
swipe. But yeah. It's an
like
interesting
that, the Pastor Joe minute.
We should do that. Think about that, Pastor Joe. We'll get you in. We'll get you in the Pastor Joe minute. I can't imagine when I gave Christian his first 3,000 Hail Marys. He was a little bit resistant, but he would just meet me every week, and they're piled up. Now it's 15,000. Anywho, we're having a lot of fun here, and we're just hanging out and do the talk today. I thought it'd be kind of cool to talk about. Steve was really generous to offer a homebrew double bazooka that he's put together. And last week we talked about this antenna and not how it performs. We could certainly talk about that and what it does. A coaxial dipole is what it is considered. I think marketing took it to a double bazooka type of, thing. It sounds cool, but this was an antenna created in the 20s at MIT, right, Steve?
20s, 30s. It was created by MIT originally for 2 meters of all places, because back then that was considered the super high frequency of the world, and it was they needed some kind of broadband antenna that would work for radar, is from what I understand. But if I'm butchering it, who cares?
I kind of threw you a curveball.
No, I just knew MIT built it, designed it, came up with it, and I think it was for radar. And then it was just it kind of started getting favor here in amateur radio, and I migrated to it from dipoles and cage dipoles to this the double bazooka, and I'm just I'm hooked on it. It is simple, easy to make. For the most part, it's a little bit more complicated than, say, a standard dipole or anything, but it's a fantastic antenna. It's been working great. The biggest problems has been the centerpiece, and we'll kind of go into it. And I kind of came up with pulled it out of my butt design, and
dynamite.
Yes.
Jeez. When you trigger Jimmy Walker, we've definitely to our new listeners. Just kidding. That's not the secret sauce we talked about last week either. It actually just makes a really good antenna. And by the way, for new members, if you join by going to buymeacoffee.com, it's a really good time to talk about it. And let me roll this out. We do have some new members that we thank, and they'll go across the screen, and we'll talk about that. But new members will be put into this random drawing for a double bazooka antenna, 20 meters, I believe, we're going to give away. We want to thank Brad, nice. KC3, Bravo Hotel India, Tom Simpson also donated, Joe, KC2, Juliet, Mike Sierra, Matt, GB, and Bowie Belt. I love that. We thank them for supporting the content and the community that they enjoy. Thank you all very much, but they'll all be put into this random drawing, and I think at the end of the month, we'll just give it away. It's an extra bonus for supporting the content and this community that you enjoy if you're interested in that. The information is in the description and on your screen if you're here watching. So I thought it would be really interesting to talk about some home brews, and I guess we can just say what it is first. I mean, a home brew antenna is just like you would think about with your beer or any sort of thing you would make. It's something you've come up with. It doesn't have to be an original antenna, but it's kind of implies that it's not purchased from the market. Your supplies are going to, of course, come from the market.
It's homemade. It's something you built yourself, and it's just homemade. And like many things in amateur radio, home brewing kind of came along. It came along with the. I'm glad it kind of fits along with these guys with the old barley hops.
What you got there?
Barley pop. Oh, just an IPA. Just there we go.
Oh, okay, so he's showing that up there. Okay.
But yeah, it's homemade, home brew. It's you make it. Whether you use your own design or someone else's design, but you put it together and then put it up and get to enjoy the fruits of your labor.
Yeah, I kind of, man, we got to talk about it here because this is the perfect kind of thing on the TikTok, and I'll write this down. Making your own antennas. This is the sort of thing where I was resistant in the beginning, and I don't know, man. I'm just, it's transparency. It's just all transparency. So this podcast became like, oh, you follow the adventures. I've made a lot of mistakes, and I've done some cool things too, and whatever. But in the beginning, building your own antenna seems a little like, can't you just tell me what to buy? I don't know. Maybe, some people are totally into like, I'm going to put this together and all the solder and all, and I got there. But in the initial times, it's like, how do I measure it? Like there's so many factors to building a simple dipole. We have to do a video for that, Steve, because some of the questions that I would ask you would go like this. So, Steve, I'm cutting the wire here. What happens when I tie it off? I'm doing air quotes to tie it off here, not tying it off. But when I solder the ends to the centerpiece, what happens to that 6 inches on both sides? Does it happen? Does that count? Does it need to be? You know what I'm saying? Like all these questions would come out. He remembers. I know it. And those questions, like when you wrap it back on the end, when you wrap it back on itself, how does that play? So many questions that you need answered, I think, in the early days may keep you from building your own antenna. Let's go to Scotty for this because he's a relatively newer ham. When it came to building antennas, and I know what he's going to say. He'll be like, nope. I'll be right back to you, Steve. Scotty, tell me about when you started getting into building your own antennas.
I jumped right into it. Doing service work and working in the studio, making cables, making antennas it came pretty naturally. And of course, like many new hams, my first antenna build was a simple 2-meter ground plane with some coat hangers and some 19 and a quarter inch wires, and soldering it together to a chassis mount, and getting it up and hung it in the attic with a thumbtack and some paracord, and wired it up to my Baofeng UV5R, and made contact with my first contact as a licensed ham that way on the local repeater.
Sorry, go
made
ahead.
several. Yeah, I got some other antennas made along the way as well. But that was my first build was that 2-meter ground plane with some simple wire.
We can also
Stiff
take
wire.
some questions. Sorry, guys, throw it right back to you. We put the link to talk in or to ask questions or to call in here tonight. We can do that. If you want to even watch from behind the scenes, you can jump into the Zoom link that we're sharing with you as well. That's here, and an offering to you if you want to do audio questions. We have a few to take as well. Steve, what did you want to talk about? Any of those points?
I built plenty of those 2-meter quarter wave antennas with the SO239 chassis mount. I've just taken some 12 gauge or 14 gauge solid wire and just soldered it to the center pin, and then I've taken the same wire and then crimp on a lug, and then some 440 hardware, nuts, screws, and nuts, and made the four ground plane radials, and stick it in top of like a PVC pipe and run the coax up the middle, and bit of bang, bit of boom, you're off and running on 2 meters FM. So yeah, another one that's been built. Yeah, the copper J pole has been another one that's popular, that a lot of people have built over the years, and clubs that are one club I belong to, that was a huge project. And it was they would build them as a group, and okay, bring in your pieces all cut to these lengths, and then we will basically sweat them together, all the joints and everything at the club meeting, and then tune them, and yeah, it was a lot of fun.
So I remember the first, I'll go back to my first home brew, and we'll talk about some of the successes that we've had and some of the failures. Some things that just don't work. Okay. I remember I first got the old girl here. We can't see her, but Drake, she's right here, just right off to my right. The Drake TR7, which I love very much, but I didn't have an antenna up outside. I was just getting onto HF. And Lanny, N0JZ, who's in the area I talked to, he's the one that listened to the podcast in the early days, and he's a Marine, right? Once a Marine, always a Marine. But at the time, I think he was in his early 70s. He must be getting on in closer to 80 these days. Anyway, I did reach out and talk to him recently, but I said, well, what do you think? And he thought, he's like, it's kind of boring. Well, okay. Got nothing to say. Okay, I guess he was right. But yeah, he was just said, I don't know. But, he gave me this little centerpiece, this little insulator that I could put 2 pieces of wire. They were not insulated. It was hung up here in the bottom of the basement. I mean, it went from room to room in my basement, and he's like, you got to have something. You might be able to hear something. I'm looking at these 18-inch concrete walls. I'm like, I heard a lot of static. Didn't hear much in the early days, but I remember kind of putting that together. I'm like, I guess I can't really screw this up, and it was an attempt for me to kind of get involved, do a little soldering, just get the feel for it, you know what I mean? And I love the smell of solder. I think it's poison and not good for you, but there's just something about doing the work that's really cool. But I did have some mental hurdles. I had several actually going in becoming a new ham, because I've always been on this side of the microphone, but the other side was a little tricky. Like, I've had engineer people help me with that in the old van, Anyway, I can tell you that over time, I can make like a dipole, and I loved it. Like, I would make dipoles, put them up, and they would sing, and I'd be like, there's such this magic to making these dipoles. And I would say try to start with that. I mean, maybe even a 15 meter, whatever. What do you suggest, Steve, as a good jumping off point for new people who are thinking, maybe I won't buy one, maybe I'll try one?
Dipole. That's the simplest, because you're just dealing with 2 pieces of wire and then attaching the coax to the wire. You don't have to have a balun, but I will show you why having a balun it kind of simplifies the build. And but you don't have to. You can you just need some kind of insulator in the center. And it could be just as simple as, I have built center insulators out of 2-inch PVC caps. So this is just a PVC 2 inches in diameter. And you can drill a hole in here at the top, put a eye bolt. You can drill 2 holes, 1 on each side, put some eye bolts, and then your wire's going to attach to that. You bring your coax up, and you can make attachments there with the coax. But as simple as just one of these, just a simple PVC cap will will work as just a center conductor, or a insulator. A dog bone insulator is another one. Or I'll show you some other. I got another insulator
we'll talk
here.
about it. That's what we're here
so-
for. It's casual conversation. We have a Zoom session up. You can call in to the show if you'd like to. We're going to hang out tonight. I know people listening were coming in talking about antennas. Usually we do live coverage after the shows of the Sunday Evening Net. There's a huge contest going on, so we're going to yield to that this week. But we're going to do some overtime and kind of hang out, take some calls, and answer some questions for a bit until the guys get super bored of me, and then they're just like, "Oh, look at the time! I better make that chili." Like, dude, it's like 10 o'clock. What do you
I got
mean?
a hole in my beer, so
There's
I gotta
a hole
go.
in my beer. I gotta go.
I gotta change the cat box. Tomorrow's trash day.
Yeah, see all the excuses that come up? Yeah, I got to get it out to the curb, man. You don't want to go missing that sort of stuff. All right, let's take a look at what happened this week in radio history. Going back to when Steve and I were just little dudes. Scotty came a little long later and was like, "Hey, can I play with you guys?" And Steve would just push him right down. Shame. It was a shame, but they've
Right
made
into
up.
the cat box.
They've been into
What
the
an
litter
a-hole
box.
that Steve guy was. What an
He
a-hole.
was a D-bag, and he would push him
Yep.
right into the trash cans because it was trash day. Always trash day. November 22nd, 1899, the Marconi Wireless Telegraph Company of America is registered. That would become huge. Tesla, my personal favorite as it goes in this realm, but Marconi is significant as well. Great stories out of radio. November 15th, 1899, just 1 week earlier, the Transatlantic Times receives the first news by wireless. Jumping now to 1954, November 14th, the first mass marketed transistor pocket radio is introduced. It was called the Regency TR-1. Good name, the Regency. On November 15th, 1985, jumping ahead now, Microsoft introduces Windows 1.0, and y'all can just take that for what it is. I never really cared for Windows too much.
Once you go Mac, you never go back.
Never go back. Oh. There's still some events going on. I am always surprised at what's happening in the world of amateur radio. Scotty's here to tell us about what events are kicking this weekend and throughout the week.
All right. Well, we got the sweepstakes. ARL sweepstakes is still happening as we speak, and will continue on for a little while after the podcast. But the next weekend we have the CQ Worldwide DX contest, the CW version of that. I think the single sideband was not too long ago. And then I was reading, just came across this today. There's a new ham contest called the Ham Spirit Contest. It's a worldwide contest. It is being put on by the Central Siberia DX Club, and I've been reading that it's sort of a response to CQ Publications banning Russian stations for the CQ Worldwide contest back a few months back. So there's apparently there's a little bit of a stir over this one over on the QRZ forums and whatnot. So, but that's happening next weekend as well. So that's about all I could dig up. We have and a special event station celebrating the landing of pilgrims at Plymouth Rock. NI1X will be doing a special event station on November 26th and 27th, celebrating Thanksgiving.
Yes, the Pilgrims with their thankless taking.
Now
Mr.
come on,
Balfang.
boys. Where's your spirit? I don't hear no singing.
Yeah, that should be the theme for the old Ham Spirit Contest. All right, friends, let's talk about being community supported, or roll those names again who have gave this week. I want to tell you a quick way how you can support the community and the content you enjoy.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate you. Names are going across. I mentioned them a little bit earlier. If you go to Buy Me a Coffee, just a few clicks. Somebody did it today and they posted on Facebook. It took them like 2 minutes, or 2 clicks, not even 2 minutes. Because there's no signups, there's no long-term commitment. We were on Patreon, but Patreon was taking up to 12% of your donation and support. And I thought that was excessive. It's a fairer break on Buy Me a Coffee. But you can support with no sign-ups, no commitments. There's a link in the description. Scotty will drop it here in the chat for you. It's as simple as buying us a cup of coffee. You can, some people want to do donations all in one chunk. You can do it by the month. There's some benefits to being a member there as well. So think about that. Matt says, I absolutely love the show. Keep up the laughs. He's a new supporter and great feedback. We appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Very, very much. There was a little bit about last week, Tim. We'll go back to jump around just a little bit. Sexy Time. I can't only play so much of that song, or I get ready. I'm ready for love. Last week we talked about Elmer's, and we didn't really get too deep into the word. I'm curious to see what the folks here think about the name and the term Elmer. And I saw you post. I was a little surprised, Steve, at your post, because you were pretty much saying, just to confirm, you think we need to move off of that word.
Yeah, I do. It's a big turnoff to people. Yes, it's my dad's name. Yes, it's tradition, but it only goes back to the 50s when the term was coined. And in another hobby, if you're into the 2A hobby, Elmer is kind of referred to as Fudd. You know, people start thinking Elmer Fudd, but I mean, Scotty, your girlfriend, that was her first thought, the same thing, was, you know, Elmer Fudd. And it's like, you know, we got to get away from it because it's just, people are turned off by it. And we have enough challenges in the hobby when it comes to promoting it. It's like, oh, why do you want to do that? You know, that's so old school. I can use my cell phone, or I can get on the internet and I can talk to people around the world. And then they hear the term Elmer. I'm going to Elmer you. They're like, oh, dude, you're some kind of wacko sicko. You need to be, you know.
The hell you are
you're
going
to on some list.
You're not going to do that at all, buddy.
Exactly. So I've kind of went, you know, this is not right. This is not working. And, but we'll still kind of teach it, or, you know, this is part of the tradition, but I think we need to use mentors, and it's more acceptable term, and people are more encouraged with that, to be mentored. And then we have, you know, mentors. So it's a big departure. I'm not totally stuck in the old traditions. I like it. And I enjoy the traditions that we have in the hobby here, but we also have to move on and continue moving forward and start new traditions. So,
all right, you guys all ready to move on? You can write in, however you find it. We've got all the contact information in the descriptions of the podcast and the live streams, wherever you want to chime in. Are you ready to move on from the term Elmer? And I think somebody was talking about it on Discord, and it does have kind of like this gatekeeper way, and you have to explain it even further. I was like, yeah, that's true. Like you just said, you know, it's another thing that kind of is a hiccup. Like, what now? And like, do you need an Elmer? Like, maybe you're the kind of person that I don't know if I want to have another person kind of all of my stuff all the time. Ben, he's KX4TX. He says the modern Elmer seems to be YouTube. I think that's good, and I think it's bad in a way. I do like the fact that the on hands, pardon the expression, all the stuff that Steve just said about Elmering and I'm gonna Elmer you. That's got a whole new thing in my mind. Thanks for ruining it.
I don't want to get Elmer.
That's okay.
I don't want to get Elmered. I need counseling. What happened? I got Elmered. Oh.
You're going to get all glued up.
I think that YouTube has kind of become, you know, where people go for information. They're definitely comfortable getting that information off of YouTube. I'm concerned a little bit about the non-hands-on thing, but I totally get, you know, fixing things, learning how to do things, getting the answers. But you really have to vet that information out. I think here we pride ourselves on, if we don't know the answer, for us, I think, at least for me, I like to give options. I don't like to just say it's this way, dude. Do it that way, or it's wrong. Good luck. Because that puts people off. There's a lot of experienced hams that can't do, what others can do. So that's where I am with that. Yeah, Big Ben wants to get Elmered tonight. That's an interesting thing. It's an always interesting thing. I think right now it's probably apropos that we talk to somebody who can do a little serious counseling. Where did he go? Good grief. Good grief. All right, let's bring him in. Hang on here. Let me get you set up. Oh, Steve-O dropped his thing out. Here comes Steve. Oh, hang on now. We've lost it. Our listening audience is like, what are these guys up to? And let's go over here. Oh, I can change it. Pastor Joe, you joined this evening. First of all, the first question to Pastor Joe, the pastor of our community, is, who let you in here? So I guess is probably I need to know. I need to know that first. Oh, I got you muted. Let me get you off air, my friend. Okay, you're good.
Can you hear me now?
We got you.
Well, the door was open, so I came in.
I knew it. Scotty?
Whenever I'm,
I
it's
left the
funny.
key under
Whenever
the
I'm
mat.
at like abandoned buildings or even not abandoned buildings, I don't know about you guys, but I always try the doorknobs to see if they're open, and you never know what you're going to find. So,
Do you believe that, Scotty? Is he telling the truth? Do you think he goes around shaking doorknobs? And
I believe it. I believe
you
it.
should know. You should know.
I just know.
Hey, good evening, everybody. It's great to be with you.
Hi, Joe.
Hi, Joe. It's good to see you, man.
Steve. Scotty, that camera's looking great, by the way.
Thanks,
we were
sir.
talking about homebrew antennas, and I just wanted to chime in on that a little bit. I had got it into my head that I said to myself, you know what? I'm a ham. I should at least make one antenna in my life, okay? And I think that for me personally, it really broke a barrier. It was, I am not the handiest guy in the world, but having done it, it was a lot harder in my mind than to actually do it. And so I just wanted to show you my $40 dipole. And I've talked to all of you from Parks on my $40 dipole. So I keep everything in a bag because I go camping. So this is the 20-meter dipole. And it was so simple, no soldering. See, this is the paracord, for stringing it.
Explain it for our listeners, Pastor Joe.
Yes, okay, thank you. So in a Ziploc bag, I keep a 20-meter dipole, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, and then I keep two lengths of paracord, and that's how I string the dipole over the trees. I have a 12-ounce arborist's weight that I just swing and get it up, up over the tree, a limb, anywhere. And, what I discovered was that it really doesn't have to be that high up in the tree. I think height makes might, that's in our heads, but, everything's a compromise. And this thing was only 8 or 10 feet up sometimes, and it worked great. So the 20-meter dipole starts with the center conductor, and I purchased this. This is, what's it called? Rocket. What's the brand name? I can't remember.
Jet something.
Jetstream. Jetstream.
Jetstream.
Thank you.
We're going to have to mute somebody. Good Lord. Holy hell. That's good Lord.
Give a man a button and he'll push it. Okay. Anyway, so this Jetstream center conductor is available online. It used to be $20. Now it's $30. And it has two connections for, the wire lengths of the dipole, and then a SO239 on the end. And it's totally self-contained. All your coils and matching is in there. I think this can take up to 500 watts. And then I just went to the big box store and got two lengths of stranded insulated. I think this is 16 gauge wire, and measured it out. Maybe it's 14, yeah. And P.S. by the way, I admire folks who can tell by looking. So, and then the cool thing are these. I got these on Amazon. Stainless steel clamp wire clamps. And what they do is allow you to loop the wire connected to the contact, and then loop it through a hole in the plastic and then out, and that relieves the strain on the contact. And I got two lugs, eye lugs, and soldered and crimped them on. And this is it. And measured out, what is it, 33 feet is a half-wave dipole at 20 meters. And some of the guys on the chat were talking about tuning, and that was really interesting. So the thing about this is that I learned a lot. And like I say, it broke a mental barrier. I learned a lot. It was not difficult. And Steve, who I consider an Elmer, helped me out with this because
Mental.
I
He
had to
gets
learn
mad.
about the ends, and it's not enough just to crimp it together. You have to wrap the wire around at the ends, and then that electrically shortens it. You can't just leave it hanging. And it wasn't until Steve told me that's when it really started to tune up. So this thing is good, like around the top of the 20-meter band at like 1.2 or 1.3. I have an FT891 field rig, which does not have a tuner, but I don't need one. And I get really good signal reports from the East Coast. I live in New Jersey. I've talked to all of you guys from New Jersey or Pennsylvania or Maryland. Steve, you and I had a great QSO a few weeks ago. Remember, I was at the park,
Mm-hmm.
and
You
that
were at
was
the park.
on the Delaware Water Gap on the New Jersey side. And Christian, I think I got you from a park in Connecticut. Remember, I held up traffic for you. You were mobile.
I was mobile. It's great.
Yeah, that was an awful lot of fun. And I've talked to Ben and some of the others, and of course Scotty. I was 8 miles away that day, but anyway. But the point of all this to say, friends, is that it is not difficult, and I agree with you, Steve. The dipole is so easy, and there's so many resources, and it breaks that barrier. It's like, yes, I can do this. And there's nothing like a tuned monoband antenna. I guess it's called barefoot, right? And there you go. And it works really well. So that's my experience with the homebrew antenna.
Good job, Pastor Joe.
Excellent.
Oh, I got
Excellent.
one more thing. Steve, you'll appreciate this. Okay, so what I'm holding up, Steve, you know what this is.
An ugly balun.
It's an ugly balun. So an ugly balun is to prevent RF from coming back into your radio. And so this is a piece of 3-inch PVC pipe with 3, 6, 9, 10, maybe 15 turns of, I think this is RG8X around it, and then zip tied it. I just drilled a couple of holes. And so it works great. Everything affects the SWR. You don't have to go to this length. It's heavy. That's the only thing about it, but it works. You can just put some turns of wire in your feed line, and that will work also. So anyway,
8 turns typically, and that will do it. So let me show you a different way of hooking it up. So oops, crash, bang,
Good
here we go.
Here we go.
So I just pulled this antenna down. It was up in the air, and I just pulled it down. So here is a 4-to-1 balun. This is an off-center fed dipole, but this doesn't matter. This could be a 1-to-1 balun or anything. But so we have the eyes here, and the wire's turned around, and this wire coming out here is coming out of the balun. But I used wire nuts.
Mm-hmm.
You just twist it together, put the wire nuts on there, and away you go. Simple. You don't need to solder, and just put the strain relief is on here, and then your electrical connection is here. So there's these MFJ baluns, which work great. Now, what Joe was talking about, the wire hanging, or with the tuning that he was running into, sorry for all the banging here, was, so here's an insulator at the end, and then you got the wire hanging down, and what's happened is you put a couple of wraps on and you think, okay, I'm going to tune it. Well, this wire also acts as part of the antenna. Mm-hmm. So what you need to do is you need to bring it all the way around, because RF actually floats. It rides on the surface of the wire. So now you have your end of your antenna is right here where my index finger is. So when you're tuning antenna, wrap all your excess wire back onto itself, and that will help you. It will help you on your tuning. So
yeah.
Good deal.
So what
That's
I've
exactly right.
So for the folks listening and not watching, basically just take your balun and or anywhere you have a strain relief, and you can hook up. You don't need to solder. You can just use standard electrical wire nuts and make your connection. It's great. I do it all the time for temporary antennas, and then when I'm done with it, I'll solder it up. But that is one method of building an antenna, whether it's an off-center fed dipole, which is basically the same as a dipole, standard dipole. It's just two wires, various lengths, and away you go. But it's pretty basic and straightforward.
All right, y'all. We got to get some business time. Y'all just you let me and Scotty take over here right now. Y'all can hold your antennas closely.
Join the conversation. I have an offset center fed dipole that I built with the MFJ for cheap 4-1. That's the way antenna
we got timeout. Cuddy calls it
timeout. My
timeout.
Fortitude on field day over the summer.
Drop your Fortitude 50 feet in the air. Look, all these stories of success. I got business to handle here. People want to know what the events are, what's going to be happening. Oh, Lord. Hey, Pastor Joe, light a candle for me. It's almost Hamfest time here. You can join. What did that? Okay, good. All right. See, I'm like, it's a free-for-all. It's a zoo around here. All these people with this broadcast experience. And the host is just, I don't know what to do. Help me out, listeners. Actually, you can join us in the Zoom. The details are shared over in Discord and everywhere else here. You can come and stay muted, though, because somebody sneezed like 13 times. Allergies must be bad wherever, in Colorado or wherever Ishmael is. But I see you in there. We'll get to you in just a little bit. We're going to take some questions. If you have a queue, drop them into the chat. And we'll handle that. Scotty, what's going on in terms of Hamfest? Are we done for the year?
Not yet. A couple still hanging out here. So we have two that I came across next weekend, November 25th, the Amateur Radio Auction in Fair Lawn, New Jersey. So your neighborhood, Pastor Joe. On the other one, down in warm, sunny West Palm Beach, in November 26th, the Palm Beach County Radio Festival, West Palm Beach, Florida. Next weekend. That's it.
Nice.
All right. Yeah, it was still going on.
Warm.
I'm really surprised.
Yeah, cozy.
So what I'd like to do
now down to 26 degrees here in Nillicay.
Okay, so you were telling us about this great antenna that you made to drop your Fortitude on field day. Oh, by the way, I did get a note that the ARRL has posted the scores. They're official now from the 2022 ARRL field day. You can check out the December issue of QST, but there's also a link here. I can drop it in. You could go to the ARRL and find it as well, but I'll go ahead and put it here in the chat for you if you want to go and check your scores, all the winners. It takes a little while, doesn't it, Steve, for them to get it together?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, usually they have it by November, but this year they're a little behind.
No problem there. You're welcome to hang with us, Pastor Joe, if you'd like to. We're going to get into some questions, talk about some things folks are asking stuff, and I want to get to them. We can also carry over tonight because we're not going to give live coverage of the net because of this contest that's happening. We'll take your calls from Zoom and your questions here as well. So we'll be hanging out after we say goodbye from our podcast listening audience. Let's go around the room here with the fellas. Successes with your homebrew antennas quickly, then we'll get to the people. Steve-O, what's your best homebrew antenna?
Oh, I'd have to say the two double bazookas I got up in the air. That's been up in the air since 2015. And those were my first two double bazookas, and it just worked out that way. But it was the most success so far, and I've been duplicating. I've been trying different methods, but I keep going back to that original. Pulled the idea that I pulled out of my behind and threw up in the air, and it's been both that 40 and 75 have been operational since 2015, and I haven't had one lick of problems with it. All right, the antenna itself.
Steve
the feed line, that's a different story.
Steve says W7UDI says the best home brew was the one that he pulled out of his little behind. Survey says yes, double bazooka. Right. Scotty, how about you, sir?
My best success so far would be with the off center fed dipole that I made with the cheap MFJ 4-1 balun and a couple spools of wire, some HVAC wire from Home Depot, and cut it for to work on 80 meters. And it, being off center fed, it's multi-band. So I do need a little bit of a tuner to kind of get it into the neighborhood, but get it up in the air. Field day, I got that one up 50 feet. And
was nice.
it was raining down on field day. It was great.
It was beautiful. I was out in the old wooden shed that day, and I heard Scotty running. It was crazy. So the one you put up at 50 feet off center fed, 4-to-1 Ballon. Right answer. Pastor Joe, your antenna that you showed us, is that the first, only, and best?
Yeah, so far, and even though it's harder to deploy than my vertical, I like it because I made it. And there's a deep satisfaction in that, and it works great, and $30-$40 can't be beat.
Right on. Let's go over to I want to go over to our Facebook, get a couple of these answers in as well. All right, do I have it? The most successful from Adam, he says it's been a 40-meter Delta loop with a homebrew 4-to-1. He worked some great DX with it. Kenny says he always has success with dipoles. I would say mine is a dipole as well. So that was mine. It's just so easy to make. You can cut them, monoband dipole. Off-center fed, get a little tricky for me to tune, but hey, it can be done. Let's see. John says, my first homebrew antenna was a roll-up J-pole. Cooked that up at a club meeting. Out of an ARRL antenna book. The ARRL antenna book is a must-have, and I can say you should get that no matter what edition, meaning what year it may be. Go ahead and try to pick that up because that's a good one. Mike says vertical, and those antennas don't stop working every year. It's not like an old pair of pants.
Just look around at a Hamfest. You'll probably find a book for $1 or $2. It might be an old one, but the information is priceless.
Word. Get it. Scott says, I've been putzing with an NFED halfway for a few weeks. He hasn't quite gotten it the way he wants it yet, but he's working on that. Joel says, all but 2 of my antennas are homebrew, 5 dipoles, 2 NFEDs, and a fence post vertical for POTA operations. All serve their purpose. He's K1JSJ. Andro, his homebrew is a single element Delta loop for 15 meters. We've got to do a show talking about a loop because I'm kind of getting the itch to do a little something different. Mickey says he built a double bazooka and a tape measure antenna. Both are working very well. Double bazooka. There it is again, y'all. Jeff, for HOA reasons. Now, these are, what does that stand for? HOA equals the devil.
Homeowners Association.
Homeowners Association. A lot of people in this hobby consider those people to be not so good, the devils. He built a stealth quarter wave wire vertical for 40 meters. He ran insulated wire up a 32-foot jack kite pole. And he's used a DX Engineering radial plate, and he hooked it up to 30 radials. Okay, so there you go. Alan says an 80-meter NFED half wave and a copper cactus J-pole. And they've been great antennas. He's KG9PN. Ken says, I've been building antennas for around 45 years and had a lot of success and a few more failures. Some of the best results were with full wave loops, wire V beams, inverted Ls, and random length wire. There you go. Some others there real quickly. Let's see. We've got an 80-meter. Kenneth has an 80-meter NFED half-wave antenna. I think sometime maybe last year, NFED antennas became sort of like I don't know. I think people for a long time when I got in 10 years ago, they were like, oh, NFEDs, no. But then it was like, oh, POTA took off. People are getting out there. They're using NFEDs, and they're trying things, and they work. So I think we see a lot more NFED.
The other thing is you needed a pretty wide range tuner for back in the day with an NFED, and now we have the advent of the 49-to-1 Ballon or UNUN and the 9-to-1, and that's really has created some success with the NFED, and now the NFED has gotten much more popular. It's easy antenna to put up, and then the latest has been throwing in just a really short 7 to 14 foot length of wire as a counterpoise, So that helps. That helps the efficiency of the antenna. So end feds have been great. It's really coming in vogue in the last couple of years as a super simple antenna to put up, and
That's my main
especially with
antenna
POTA.
here at the shack is end fed 80 cut for 80.
Yeah,
Pastor Joe's seen it.
big.
It's wacky, but yeah. And I have about a 20-foot counterpoise hanging from the transformer box.
Yeah.
Good deal. We're going to take some questions. We'll let the privilege of the folks who are here tonight get their questions in first. You can join us on Zoom. I'll bring you in as we go. Please mute yourself, though, and I'll get to you probably in just a little bit. But we've got some questions, and we'll do some questions after the show as well. James said, for a double bazooka, can you use 75 ohm coax? I want to build one for 160, and I have a roll of it. He's Kilo Golf 5, Lima, Tango Lima.
Yes, you can. Actually, it doesn't matter what kind of coax. Now, the issue I ran into, so one day I will go, oh, well, I'm gonna make a double bazooka out of some RG6, and I ran down to the big box store and I prepped up a cable, and I cut it all to length, and then I started to assemble it, and it's like, well, wait a minute, I can't solder this because there's steel wire. This particular brand of RG6 I was using has steel wire. So the only other way I could come up with a transition was to use these splicing sleeves. And so I would crimp them, and then the coax would go into here, the center conductor here, shield here. But I ran into another issue with the double bazooka, is that at the end of the coax, you got to short the shield and the center conductor. And being that the shield is combination of foil and this steel wire, this is going to have to be a mechanical connection. And I'm not really a big fan of mechanical connections because mechanical connections can fail, where if you had it soldered, it's a more solid connection. So it's a work in progress with this guy, and but it can be done. But make sure the cable that you select. And I just last night, in preparation for this, I started looking on the big box stores and around, and even on Amazon, just to find okay, what's the build makeup of RG6 or 75 ohm cable, and a lot of them are either steel wire or aluminum, and so it's soldering is going to be a different issue. So, but if you can find some RG59 or any copper based cable, then soldering is going to be a lot easier. But it could be done. You just have to kind of work around the challenges.
Mark WM9K says, you're blessed if you have a high place to hang your antenna from, regardless of the build. And I totally agree with that. I do a lot of my business in the trees. We mentioned Scotty got up there at 50 feet. He was over at his brother's place, though, and it was like a free-for-all. And then he was showing off on field day. Let me just work the pile up. And I was in there, kilo, 0. And I'm shaking. I'm like, he can't hear me. I'm out in the shed. Why can't he hear me? And
It was just mimicking Paul there with the fortitude.
Kilo, Charlie 3, Bravo, X-ray November, 50 feet in the air, off-center fed dipole, Maryland. You're 5'9". It's like that.
It was
Damn.
the one and only time I've got an antenna that I enjoyed it very much. It was great. It was a great experience.
Kilo India 5.
Mark,
go ahead.
Yeah, but Mark, it's yes, it is blessed, but you can work the world even down low. And Joe was a prime example. Him and I got a chance to work cross country with his low antenna. I've worked a number of guys on 75 meters that just put wire antenna right on their fence post at up 5-6 feet. It's gold. It's golden.
Hey, dude, do you remember when you and I, back in the old days, we were running the net? Hey, man, get off my yard. Grandpa, you're not in the yard. I don't care. I'm just talking to the groundhog. That groundhog's in my yard. I'm talking to that squirrel. We were running the net, and we had an old boy come in, and he loaded up like a cow fence, and it was like, I don't know, hundreds of feet. And he's like, Yeah, man, it's only like 4 feet off the ground.
It's
But we're like,
barbed wire.
what? It was barbed wire. We're like, how long is it? Oh, I reckon it goes, I guess, about it went around this whole pasture. And I was like, I didn't know you could do that. I was like, this is crazy. But do you remember that guy? I can't remember his name
yeah.
right now. But that was
I
like,
can't either. I'm drawing a blank, but it was just like, oh
Holy
my God, that's
cow,
hilarious.
man.
It's wild. And there was, I've worked people that have loaded up their gutters on their house. They're aluminum gutters. If you have the vinyl gutters, it won't work. But if you got aluminum gutter around your house, you had the downspout. They hooked the center conductor to the downspout and drove a ground rod right there and hooked the shield to that and just went to town and worked them on 20 meters. It was awesome.
All right. I'm going to encourage, because I know we're creeping up on our normal time. We know that people were out there moving around and all that. Tonight, we're probably going to do what would be the equivalent of a bonus show. It's definitely going to be an extra hangout. Scotty's going to drop the Zoom call-in information. So everybody that's here with us now, please go move it on over there, and we'll still hang out on the live stream. We'll take your questions, but come into the room there. It sounds a little weird. We'd like to Elmer you and all
Don't
that.
worry, you won't be Elmered.
We got a lot of problems.
You won't be Elmered.
But come on over there. We'll take your questions and we can talk to you in real time. I want to be sensitive to our listening audience who may be on their commute, and we've got a pretty good time schedule with those folks. Let's see. Kilo India 5, Oscar Echo Bravo asked, best mobile antenna. And as a bonus, which band? All of this driving for my IC706 MKIIG. I have 2 meters already. So there you go. This is a trap here. I mean, this is a really trick question.
Best
there.
mobile antenna for,
I guess HF?
was it for HF or 2 meters? I mean,
Well, he's got a 2 meter. He's got a 2 meter already. So let's just try to tackle quickly, I guess. HF. I mean, I've the first mobile guy I've ever experienced on the road was my friend Ian, and Kilo India 9 whiskey, and he was going 70 miles an hour down the highway with some kind of whip. What are they called? You know what they're called? The ones that extend. Damn, what are they called?
Like a telescoping lift?
the screwdriver?
No, it wasn't a screwdriver, but you got to get out and change every band. You know, it's like 20 meter.
Kind of like a hustler
Hamstick.
or
Hamstick. No,
a
it's a
hamstick.
hamstick.
Yeah, the garden $20 hamstick.
Totally, man. And it's less than $20 every one of them at every band, right? And he said it or whatever. I believe this is what he was using, a hamstick. I was out in my field. He was moving, and I thought I was getting blown away. Like, you're moving? He's like, yep, doing 70 miles an hour on the mobile. I'm like, holy cow. I wouldn't say that's absolutely the best, but I was blown away by what the ham sticks can do. They're kind of rigid. They might be tall. You got to tune them. You'd have to get out and change the antenna to change your band. I use a Tar Heel antenna. It has to have a tuner. There's a lot of rigmarole going along with that antenna, but I do like it a lot. As I mentioned earlier, Pastor Joe, I worked him. I was picking up food with my daughter. We had a special daddy-daughter type of thing going one evening, and I was like, hold on, I think I'm out here. And I tried it, tuned it up, and what that does, that telescoping sort of, what's the kind of antenna they're called? Steve, you just said it. Not telescoping.
The
this
screwdriver?
much. The screwdriver.
The screwdriver, yeah.
Well, you have to tune it in. That serves me, and those are two different extremes. You know, that one's going to cost more money than the other. The ham sticks you got to change, might be a pain in the butt. But I don't know. Those that's a bit of a trap, whatever is best. But yeah, ham stick will work. It's pretty cheap. Tar Heel works for me right now. Steve, any idea? Because you're not doing HF mobile at the moment.
No, not yet. So, I mean, the hamstick is a pretty inexpensive antenna. It's you're pretty narrow bandwidth, but if you just like to operate in a kind of a small range, it's perfect. It's inexpensive. Another one that's been around forever is the Hustlers, and then their resonators that go along with it. And there's been some plates that have been made to where you can hook up 3 resonators. So you got like a 3-band antenna, but it's kind of a porcupine kind of deal. And so that's one. The screwdriver style antenna, which is a tuner, motorized tuner in there to kind of help tune the antenna. There's a lot of them out there. When it comes to 2 meters UHF, I have found over the years the one that I like for dual band antennas by far for what I've been using has been the Larson NMO 2/70, which is a dual band antenna, almost 3 dB on 2 meters, 5 or so on UHF. It's been a pretty good all around antennas, but it's hard. There's the Comets, there's the Diamonds, there's others out there, but I've just kind of stuck with the Larsons personally. But it's this is the tough question. Someone comes along, when you're new, you're like going, I want to get the best for what I can, but then it's so subjective, and that's where what might work for me and what I think is the best might not work for you.
Scotty, you got a quick one? You got a quick one there?
I haven't. I've briefly ran HF Mobile, and when I did, it was a 20 meter Hustler resonator.
All right, there you go. I hope that helps you. Thank you for stopping by and giving us your questions, sharing with us your successes. We didn't get into failures, but hey, that's kind of the thing. Who wants to harp on that? But I definitely made some mistakes building some stuff, and then it's just like hang it up, and it doesn't do what you want it to do, and you're like,
The worst, it works at one point and then it fails later, and then you're like going, why has it failed? And then you start realizing, I was like, well, duh, dumbass.
Yeah.
You did that.
Yeah.
Been there, done that.
We'll have to talk about off-center feds coming up, because I think tuning those can be pretty frustrating. I've cut the same amount of wire and different things.
I like them. I think
I do like them too. It's just you gotta get it right. And we should talk about link dipoles too, because those are fun. Ooh, those are fun to make. Fun. They're fun to tune. They take a while. You get a lot of steps in. But I love a link dipole. But when you got to change, you got to get out there and make a change. Let's talk about that as we come up. And so anyway, I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much for those who have supported and become members this week. We appreciate you so much. It does help us keep the lights on, and does not pay for anyone's yacht. That's all I got to say. We do not have a yacht.
Doesn't even pay for the dinghy.
I've got a John boat that I paid for many years ago, and I got to get it out of the water. It's getting too cold. Anyway, you guys stay tuned if you're here during the live show recording. We're going to hang out and do a little bit of overtime stuff because no net, because of the super big contest. But you can contact us on Zoom. We'll take some questions, and maybe me and the fellas will chase some of these contest stations. We'll hang out. Sunday evenings are always fun to gather, fellowship, friendship, all that. All right, my brothers, thank you. And 73, Steve, W7UDI.
73.
And Scotty, KC3, BXM, 73.
73. Good night, everyone.
Look after each other. Take care of yourselves. And by all means, if you can, please try and stay above the noise. 73, y'all.
To join the 100 Watts in a Wire community, visit 100wattsinawire.com.